up, everybody? Welcome to the second episode of Sinister's Horror Stash. I am your host, Alec Miller, and I am joined, as always, by my man Hunter, the Hitman Chambliss. And we have a great episode today because this is a very, very fun movie.
Oh, I absolutely love this movie. This is my top two favorite B horror movies. We are talking about 1985 Re-Animator, directed by Stuart Gordon, starring Barbara Crampton and Jeffrey Combs. This movie it's considered a horror cult classic. Really dives into body horror, which I love. I'm a huge fan of like the Cronenberg films and things like that, and this really dives into that. So, Alec, I know this was your first time watching Re-Animator. Go ahead and give me your thoughts on this movie.
I love this movie. This movie is so much fun. This is what I want. This is what I look for in horror films, and I just want to have a good time. I want to be entertained, and I love me some body horror. It's a guilty pleasure of mine. I love body horror. It's one of my favorites. My favorite aspect, especially when you do practical. Like I love it so much. The Fly is very high up on my list, and so this I had so much fun with. And when I saw H.P. Lovecraft in the beginning, I was like, I'm in. I'm in. You got me, yep. Man. I love me some H.P. Lovecraft. I love me some cosmic horror. And this is. I was wondering. I was like halfway, like get to the movie. I'm like. This is like not. This doesn't feel H.P. Lovecraft to me just because of like what I know from H.P. Lovecraft. But by the end of it, it gets it. You get it, and it's so much fun.
100%. First, I want to give shout out to the cast. Jeffrey Combs is a horror icon. If you guys don't know who he is, he plays Herbert West in this film. He also plays him in the sequel, and then there was a 2006 movie, I believe, called Beyond Re-Animator, which he also comes back to star in. He was also in the 2012 film Would You Rather with Brittany Snow. It's a really, really good, fucked up horror movie. If you've never seen that one, he's amazing in it. But also, big shout out to Barbara Crampton, who is horror royalty around here. She was in Chopping Mall from, I believe, 70... Let me look up the year real quick. I believe it's like 72. Give me 1 second.
See, and like that's a name that I've heard. Like Barbara Crampton, like that's a name that I've heard, but I had never seen.
86. I'm sorry.
Okay, so yeah, that's. I'm happy that this is my introduction to these two horror icons because I didn't know these actors at all, and after seeing this movie, like I completely get it, and especially if they're in more. Like now that I know about the sequel and like what Jeffrey Combs is involved in, I do want to check out those movies because it can only
Barbara
get
Crampton
crazier.
Was also in 2011's You're Next, which is a very fucking good movie.
I love You're Next. Yes, that's.
So yes, she plays the mother, I believe, the patriarchy of the family. Yeah.
Okay, hell yeah.
So yeah, she is. And she's still making movies like today. She has been in so many low-budget horror movies. She was in Terrifier and Terrifier 2. She was in a lot of Lords of Salem. Like she's been in a lot of different horror movies. And recently she has started a YouTube podcast with the co-star of the first Terrifying movie and James A. Janice of Dead Meat, which is awesome. It's called Scream Dream, so go ahead and check that one out as well. Dude, the amount of guests they had on that show is insane. Like they had Mike Flanagan on there, which is one of my favorite episodes. So yes, let's get into Re-Animator because I am so excited to get in this movie, man. I've watched this movie so many fucking times.
Yeah, man. So this movie starts out. We're in Switzerland at the Institute of Medicine, the University of Zurich. And Herbert West. Oh, you see these couple people running to this room that is someone is screaming, and they run into the room, and you see Dr. Hans Gruber. Dr. Hans Gruber.
I forgot that was his name, and now I see where they got the name from Die Hard.
Yeah, it's that's pretty funny. And yeah, I didn't like hearing that. I'm like Hans Gruber. They must like Die Hard. I'm like, wait, hold on, this came first.
This came before Die Hard.
So yeah, we have the origins of the Hans Gruber. But yes, you see Dr. Hans Gruber is in a very like he's obviously something's bad happening, and you see the eyes explode.
Oh,
Uh,
it's so good.
ah, love me some eyes, some eye
What a way to start
explosion.
off strong, man.
And then they're like, "What just happened? You killed him." And I love this line from Dr. Herbert West or
Mhm.
Herbert West. He's like, "I gave him life." Like what a
I
way
didn't
to
kill
start the
him.
film.
I gave him life.
I love it.
Uh,
Like that's such a great quote. And we get the opening credits.
the
And
credits are amazing.
I love films with horror. I love films with credits, opening credits.
Hmm.
We they don't do enough of them.
They
Movies
do
don't do
not.
it enough anymore. Bring that back, please. And then we're taken to Miskatonic University in Arkham, Massachusetts. Arkham,
Hmm.
obviously the Lovecraft, uh, the Lovecraft.
Reference
Everyone know
to
if you know from
yeah, because Arkham Asylum was based off of a Lovecraft novels.
yes. So Arkham, Massachusetts. He's a med student here. Herbert West is a med student here,
Hmm.
and he meets a guy, another medical student, Dan Kane, who his job is to move dead bodies around. That's what he does. He
Of
just
course.
brings them to the morgue, right? And you get
Hmm.
to meet the first. You get to meet the who is actually kind of like a charming character. Is the security guard? Like it's very like it's one of those characters where like he doesn't really have much to do. He's just there, but it's a really nice personality, and it's a face that like every time he shows up on the screen, like this is nice. I like this guy a lot. I'm trying to let me go back and see who that was because I want to give some love to him.
You talking about Mace?
Yes, Mace, Jerry Black, man. Like it was just a character. Didn't have much to do, but I enjoyed seeing him. It felt
Hmm.
very I don't know, it worked for me.
Yeah,
And and then we're introduced to Barbara Crampton's character, uh,
Megan.
Megan Halsey, who is the daughter of the dean, and Mr. Dan Kane is sleeping with her. Uh,
Yep,
so there's obviously a conflict of interest here. It,
very much so.
so they're doing everything they can that her dad doesn't find out because she knows that her dad will lose his mind.
Hmm.
And that he might get expelled, might literally be kicked out of school. So that's a very good reason to hide that. But
Yeah,
they're a very nice couple, and I enjoy like they have really good chemistry.
they
Barbara
really do.
Crampton
Yeah. Um,
and Dan Kane,
Shout out
Bruce
to
Abbott.
Bruce Abbott who played
Yeah,
Dan Kane. Him and Barbara Crampton. I love the idea that when we first start out this movie, we get our hero and we get our heroine pretty much in Megan, and that they have such great chemistry with each other. So it feels really natural. Like it doesn't feel awkward or stiff or stale. Like they really bounce off each other very well.
yeah. And then after that, shortly after the introduction of Miss Megan Halsey, uh, Herbert West shows up at the house and it's kind of like he's gonna rent out this room here
Hmm.
because Dan Kane converted it and needs someone to live there, and so Herbert West is gonna live there, and
You do
he
not want Herbert West as your roommate, bro.
no, he's really weird, but they're like, you're from Switzerland. They're like, okay, like foreigners are weird type thing. Like, just,
I love the idea that because he's from Switzerland, that excuses almost everything he does.
they're just like he's European. Like, I guess whatever. But then we get he the introduction of the reanimate or the reagent. Sorry, the reagent.
Hmm.
After the cat Rufus is brought back to, or is found inside of a fridge
Found
inside
inside the
Herbert's.
fridge.
Found inside the fridge, but then later, shortly after, which is like, how in the world Herbert West? They just like kind of completely believe him
They just
Uh,
like bypass all of that.
like you just found your cat dead. And his entire his
There was
he
a
has
funny
the
moment with the cat where they're trying to Megan and Dan are trying to have sex, and the cat
oh
just
yeah,
drops on his head.
just drops on them.
Which, if
Pets,
that's not
pets in that moment.
if that's not a relatable moment, I don't know what is.
Way to ruin the mood, cat. Way to ruin the mood, Rufus. But yes, the answer that Herbert gives, he literally says, "I found him that way." Like
I
the
highly
typical,
doubt that.
and like I found him that way, and he didn't. He even like kind of like looked like shifted his eyes, like yeah, that's what I did.
You believe in this,
Uh,
right?
so and Dan Kane goes for it. It's just like okay, I get it. It happens. He was, I guess,
It
old, but he wasn't actually. I
happened.
forgot what he said happened. It was like that he got his head stuck somewhere, uh, and then that's how he died. He suffocated, and later that night, the cat is brought back to life and attacks Herbert.
Yeah.
Completely goes crazy. Dan Kane helps him take out the cat, and that's when this friendship, this partnership happens between Herbert and Dan because it's clear evidence that Herbert's onto something when it comes to reanimating a dead body, which we find out later. Dr. Carl Hill believes is not possible. He believes in the 6 to 12. I think it's like 6 to 12 minute that you can reanimate is possible, but Herbert's point is that he can bypass, he can go past that, and is able to actually do like a couple crazy things, which is we'll get into that later. But yeah, that's probably the first act of the film.
So yeah, you brought up the reagent that they use in this film. Funny enough, according to Jeffrey Combs himself, they had to use, that is made out of it's the glow stick juice that's inside the glow sticks, and they had to use over 900 glow sticks to get enough of the juice out to be able to make the juice pretty much for it. So I find that funny that someone had to literally be paid to break glow sticks in half and kind of pour the juice out.
I would take that job.
I would too. That sounds so much fun.
Pretty chill, just keep cracking them.
But
yeah, that's what I love about like these like old about the more classic horror films, like in the 80s, especially the 80s and the and 90s and 70s, like that era with the practical effects that we got is amazing. So even that something that simple, I mean as simple as that practical effect of like it's not CGI, it's like literally glowing liquid. They took the time and put in the effort, and that's why like we gotta love low budget horror films because they're made a different way. They're made in just such a different way. But all right, so we get to the next part where Dan and Herbert, or Dan goes to the dean, tries to get him to understand like, hey, Herbert's figured this out. Like we have to like put some research into this, which understandably the dean's like, you guys are nuts.
Yeah.
You're not going to just start bringing dead things to life. That's probably not a smart idea.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, let's not do that. And actually kicks them out of school. So then Dan and Wes sneak into the morgue and try, and with the first dose that they try, and it works kind of. It brings this very animalistic zombie to life that immediately just destroys the dean, demolishes him.
It is gruesome, and I love it.
It's amazing. It starts off with a very emphatic way in just completely mowing down the door. The door completely squashes the dean, and he jumps on it. You hear the cracking. The sound work in this film is nuts.
Dude, the squishing and the sound of like flesh and like body parts is it sounds so realistic. It's a really
gross
weird
scene. It's a gross scene without being visually gross. Like, yeah, there's a little blood, but it's all sound, and it works in every way.
Sound is worse because when you're seeing something, you can put it in your head that, oh, this is fake. When you hear something, you can't tell.
Yeah, it's disgusting, and in the best way possible.
Oh yeah.
And they're because he's dead, and Wes comes up with the idea that, hey, he was dead too long. I need to try something fresher. And so he kind of like doesn't even have to convince him very much, but
Nope.
he just tells Dan, like, get him on the table. We're bringing him to life. And he does come back to life, but he comes back same as a mindless kind of. I guess the way that he describes it is birth is painful, like birth is pain. And
I
so like
love the
that's
fact
why.
that in 2 times in this film, when they're doing experiments on trying to bring back the dead, you have Megan just come in and see it. Like she saw it on the cat
Yes.
and the human, and she's not out of there yet. She's not running for her fucking life at this shit.
Yeah, man. She walks in, like you said, she walks in on this happening. Her dad is alive, but not really. He's just a zombie. But the thing is, he doesn't attack her. So there is that memory still there.
Yeah.
So he is kind of brought back to life, and that's when Wes kind of realizes, like, I know what to do. Like, I know what the dosage is. But Carl Hill gets involved and lobotomizes the dean very obviously selfishly, and he makes this is where you find out that he's obsessed with Megan. He has this interest in Megan, and
It's so
this is the real
creepy.
villain of the movie. The real villain of the movie is revealed to us, and yeah, it's extremely creepy. You're just like, God damn it! Like, you saw it coming from a mile away, but every time it happens, like, you know it's coming, but every time it happens, you're just like, God damn it, man! Like, I knew it.
There is a funny ass scene where it is that same guy. He's walking. I think it's him. He's walking with like by the security guard with half of a face and a trench coat and a hat. He's just kind of sneaking past, and the security guard does nothing about it.
Oh, I know. Yeah, we're about to get to the get to that because in that
this movie is a dark comedy, and I love it for it.
Yeah. So then we go to where we have with Dr. Hill and Wes in the lab. Dr. Hill goes to Wes because he wants to basically take his work. He wants to take wants to take the reagent for himself, and Wes isn't having it, and he takes a shovel to his head and chops his head off. Chops off Dr. Hill's head off.
And again, the sound effect, the squishy sound effect when he's trying to decapitate him.
Oh yeah, it's gross, it's disgusting, and the blood, the amount of blood there is, the physical, I mean the practical effect of actually that's obviously a puppet that they're doing. Like, it's so good, it's just amazing, and Wes decides to give the reagent to not only the head of Dr. Hill but also to the body, which turns out to be a horrible idea. The worst idea, because it works, and Dr. Hill is able to completely control his body. So this is the first instance where it completely works. No issues at all. Might have made him a little bit OP actually. Because,
it did 100%.
He turns into an 80s villain. He is the head on the pan, but the way he's talking, how he kind of slows his speech down. The performance is great.
And great thing is that he cannot pronounce his T's. So when he tries to say something with T, he West comes out as Wes.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Like the performance is amazing. I do enjoy that performance. Like,
it's amazing.
From David Gale. He like this is one of those films where it was a blast to make. They were just having so much fun with it because
Barbara Crampton said that this was probably the most fun she's ever had on sets for these movies.
Yeah. and it shows. And I love watching a film, and you can just tell
Mhm.
like, oh, this is the Black. They're having so much fun. Like,
Oh
it makes
yeah,
me wish that I could like be a fly on the wall in
a
in
fly.
some
I
movies
see what you
like
did
this.
there.
Yeah. Hey. Uh, so we go like, not only does this reanimated Dr. Hill become like the complete villain, but we
Mhm.
start to see the plan, which is to create more and take the serum that has been perfected by Wes, and just create more zombie henchmen in this
Yeah.
film. And because he's found you find out that he's able to control them. He's able because he's able to control the dean, and and
So
kidnapping Megan.
to add some background knowledge on that, there was a scene in this movie that was cut that shows that Dr. Hill was supposed to have some sort of um, mind control powers, and
Hmm.
that's how he was able to control all these people, and was how he was able to control all of the reanimated. But they just cut it because they were like, "There's no reason to explain that. Let's just
Yeah,
cut it, and there's no reason to even explain why. He can do it now." Which is
like
probably better for the movie.
like we saw in the last episode, show don't tell.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, show the fact that he's able. The first time you see it is when he controls the dean to
Yeah.
kidnap. And the reason why he's able to do that is after the lobotomy, giving them the lobotomy with that laser
Mm.
drill, he's able to he the way he describes it, he's able to conquer free will basically,
Yeah.
and bypass it and control these reanimated bodies. So
Mm.
yeah, this dude Hill becomes a absolute maniac and a formidable villain because uh, they're kind of at a loss when this happens. Although I do love that, we'll get to it. You know, Kane. I mean, not Kane. Why am I just blinked on his name? Hill.
Hill.
His ultimate plan. He has the dean bring his daughter, which is
Mm-hmm.
this is such a very weird scene. He brings her here, and that's his whole plan. Is he's basically just gonna sexually assault her with his decapitated
Yeah.
body.
Yeah. On the bright side, Barbara Crampton has come out and said that she felt extremely comfortable on this set, and I just want to point out that that's amazing that they were able to do this scene and make sure that she was protected, and make sure that she felt safe doing this scene.
I'm glad to hear that because this is a very disturbing scene.
It really is.
It's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Like we said, we had some sexual assault, and then you even had his decapitated head licking her body.
Oh God.
I'm glad to hear that everything was fine and that
Mm.
she was completely comfortable because that is a rough
Yeah.
scene to have to film. I don't even know where
Yes,
you
it
begin.
is.
But my favorite part about this is that having found out that this is Herbert's, when Herbert finds out that this is Hill's plan,
Mm-hmm.
you just kind of see the disappointment in Herbert because Herbert is all about the science. Herbert is just about like he has this goal that he wants to accomplish, and the fact that you're ultimate, you do it, you get this power, and this is what you stoop to. And I'm like, yeah, man, I like that message. It's kind of
I
a cool
love the
message.
fact that at the end of this film, we are kind of rooting for the guy who killed a cat
Yeah,
and brought it back to life, and this dude who is clearly insane, but they
He's
found someone
insane.
who's more insane than he is.
Yeah, I think that when you become a decapitated body carrying your head, you're no longer the good guy. I
Nope,
think you're
no, you're not.
just the steps you have to take to get to this point. You're clearly not the good guy. But yeah, we're cheering for Wes, which is like looking back in the beginning of the episode. Like I thought, the beginning of the movie, I thought he was the villain. I was like,
Yeah,
oh, he's gonna kill this couple. That's where my mind immediately went to. But no, he's just like all about science. He's just trying to.
And that's kind of the point, though. At the beginning of the movie, they want you to think that Herbert West is the villain. But if you go back and rewatch it multiple times, like I did, you start to see, even at the beginning of the film, he is weird, but he's that weird of like, I want to. He goes to the extreme of I want to see how far I can bring people back to life. He does it in kind of a place of being nice because he wants to prove people wrong and to prove that he can beat death, but he takes it to the all up teeth extremes here. But then when he finds somebody who isn't doing it just for science, he's doing it to have his way with somebody who he considers a friend now in Megan, and the fact that he's using it to manipulate people, that's what makes the difference between Hill and West, and I love it.
Yeah, it's the dichotomy of someone who is in it for the science. They're literally just trying to discover the mysteries of life and all that stuff, and see how far and push his knowledge and able to what he can do. Dr. Hill's a creep. Dr. Hill's entire thing is he's a predator. Like that's what he uses his intellect for, and he uses these newfound powers of having this kind of control. That's what he uses it for. And so we get kind of the final showdown between Dan Kane, Herbert West, and Dr. Hill. And man, you really do think that Herbert is like going to get the drop on them, but no, like Dr. Hill has created his army of mutilated zombies to do his bidding, and it looked like you don't really know what Herbert's plan is, but he has a couple vials of the reagent, but he's taken out. They're taken out by these zombies, but Dr. Hill has to monologue before he
of course
he kills.
It's an 80s horror movie.
So he does his monologue, and in that moment, Kane is able to fight off some of these zombies, and also we have when they're getting attacked, Megan's father, the dean, turns because he hears his begging him to help, and he listens. So getting that from earlier, we saw like he clearly listens to her, and he knows a memory there. The lobotomy did not completely wipe the daughter, and so he helps and becomes the muscle to turn the tide. However, we do see him have a very brutal death. His death is he's just completely ripped apart by every single one. But they're able to get the reagent into Dr. Hill's head, and he said that his theory was overdose, that he could possibly overdose on this reagent. Which I guess we'll talk about at the end. We'll see. But in that moment, they are able to get away. Megan's able to get away, and Dan is able to get away. However, because of what the reagent has done and the overdose that it's getting, his body completely like just changes and is able. It becomes its own thing, and this is where the Lovecraftian horror aspect comes in. Because you have this awesome shot where Herbert is grabbed by the spine. Or no, it's either the spine or it's the intestine. I couldn't tell.
I believe it's the intestine.
Okay, if it's the intestine, even cooler. Grabs him, wraps him up, and is dragging him into this he's dragging him towards the body. But I guess we'll talk. I guess I want to hear your theory. But there's this light, there's the smoke, the aspect. I didn't know if there was like something happening there, or if this is like he overdosed him enough with his reagent that it created some kind of like cosmic being.
I'm on that train. I feel like Herbert West didn't really know what his serum was. He knew that it worked. He knew that there were some kinks to it, but I feel like when you because they keep showing in the movie when you keep injecting something in it, it becomes rabid. It becomes this kind of
Mm.
mindless zombie. What I think happened is that he inflicted so much that it bypassed the zombie phase and created something completely different.
Yeah, like it creates something of not of this dimension, or like
Mm-hmm.
which is that like that's Lovecraft all the way. That's the
100%
signature.
it is. Yeah.
So, but we do our heroes do escape, or they think you think they have escaped, but they're attacked by one of the zombies. It grabs hold of Megan. Megan's throat is squeezing,
Mm-hmm.
and Dan Kane is not able to save her in time. He gets the axe, chops off the hand, but is not able to save her in time. Gets the that's where we get the redo of the or just the callback to earlier in the movie, where he's having a hard time letting someone go. He's giving her CPR, or he's giving her CPR,
Yeah.
and
Chest
and
compressions.
using the defibrillator, and she's gone. She does die,
Mm-hmm.
and this is where the acting of Bruce Abbott really sold this for
So
me.
good.
Like, because I remember thinking in the movie, I was like, I don't care about this relationship, and no, like when that moment hits, like it devastated me.
Really?
It
At the
hurt.
end of the movie, you didn't care about the relationship?
No, I'm saying while I was watching, I was
Oh,
like,
oh,
I'm
okay.
not really gonna care. I'm not really gonna care about this relationship. And by the end, like when she
You
dies, like
really do.
I'm in it. I'm in it. I'm
Mm-hmm.
invested. Uh, and he goes for the reagent. He goes for the one that was in the bag. And the last thing we know is last thing we see is him going to it. And I love that it stops on a freeze frame. Of you don't see him in Jack. You do
Mm-hmm.
hear it, and that's how the movie ends in a very painful rebirth for Megan.
And what's cool is, again, this movie came out in like '88, I believe. She does come back in Bride of Re-Animator, which is a sequel.
Oh, this is 85.
Yeah, so yeah, this is '85. I believe the
If
sequel
I'm
is either
oh
'86 or
88.
'87.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm in it because I love this film. What a great
I
movie, which is so
I
much
love
fun.
it.
I love me some classic body horror. That's why I do want to. That's one. Those are. That's a director that like. I like. I know The Fly, and that's it. I have to see more
Mm-hmm.
Cronenberg. But Stuart Gordon with this movie, wow, fantastic. I
Yeah,
did.
so
I
Stuart
give this
Gordon
one a high
also
grade.
directed. Yeah, so Stuart Gordon also directed. He directed the sequel, and then he directed kind of a follow up, but not in the same Re-Animator world, called From Beyond. That one has the
Nice.
same, pretty much the same cast as Re-Animator. He brought them all back, but it is a different story based on, I believe it's based on another Lovecraftian type movie.
Story. Yeah, man. This is a great movie. I actually gave this movie a really high grade on my
Mm.
letterbox. I gave it 4.5.
Let's
I
go.
I adore this film. This movie's amazing. It's very high up on my of my first time watches for this year,
Mm-hmm.
and it might be actually. I think it's number 3. I think I have because I
Let's
just watched
go.
Logan. I just watched Logan, so Logan is number 1 right now.
The comic movie?
Uh, yeah, I hadn't seen it, so I finally
What?
watched it. Yeah, I finally watched it. That's amazing. And then
Bro, that came out like
it's a
2017.
little.
Where have you been?
I just never watched it. And then I watched, and then Gladiator was another first time watch for
Mm-hmm.
me, and that's my number 2, and then Re-Animator's number 3 because this movie is
So,
amazing.
looking up on the Rotten Tomatoes, it's got a surprisingly high score, a 94 critic score and an 82 audience score.
I disagree wholeheartedly with the audience. The audience
Uh,
needs to get that up higher. I'm like a
to be
solid like
fair,
95.
this movie is not for everybody,
No, it's not.
especially if
This is a
if you're
purely
someone.
like taste.
Yeah,
Yeah, you
so
have to like body horror. You got to like gore.
yeah, I'm actually surprised the audience score is so high. I was expecting it to have a high critic score but a low audience score
Yeah.
because body horror is not really a mainstream thing. You know, there are some people like you and me who love it, but then there are some people who find that shit disgusting, and it
Mhm.
can be, but that's kind of the point of it. But the fact that this movie has an 82 audience score, a 94 critic score, and that it's a cult classic really shows that you can make a movie like this on such a low budget, and if it's done correctly, if you got a great story, if you got really good practical effects, this will live on in eternity. Like even today, looking back at a movie from
Mhm.
'85, the effect that they used, the practical effects, still hold up, and that says a lot for a movie from from the '80s.
Yeah, yeah. It just shows like, man, if you just can create. It's just creativity, man. That's why I love
Mm-hmm.
horror. Like, you can be as creative as you possibly can. You can have, uh, and when you have like as low a budget as these lower budget films do, like
Mm-hmm.
it requires you to try things and be and take risks and just have some fun. Like just have some fun making a movie. You're not too worried about like, man, how much money are we trying to make with this movie? Just go out there and just make a good movie. And
Yep.
that's what they did here. I'm looking at a little bit of the trivia. I did like this one. The special effects department went through 24 gallons of fake blood during the shoot. Makeup effects artist John Nolan said that Re-Animator was the bloodiest film he had ever worked on. In the past, he had never used more than 2 gallons of blood on a film, which is pretty cool. Pretty cool. I
That's
love me some blood.
awesome.
Yeah, and then there's another thing here, which is Stuart Gordon and Dennis Paoli, originally intended to be faithful to Lovecraft's story, but the film
Mm-hmm.
ultimately had little in common with the story, which was intended, I guess, Lovecraft's was intended to be a parody of Frankenstein. And yeah, this is not a Frankenstein film. This is more of a
Yeah.
evil person gets power.
I do like how at the beginning of the movie though you do have that feel of Frankenstein though,
Yeah.
where it's like I gave him life is a line you would hear from Dr. Frankenstein, like that the whole idea of him trying to reanimate a body using other bodies in other dead bodies is something that Dr. Frankenstein
Yeah.
did in the original movie. So you have that kind of that small piece of it, but I'm glad that they took that small piece and turned it on its head and made Herbert West into the hero.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the basis. The basis of the story is Frankenstein. You have the inspiration, but because it wasn't working the way that they wanted it to, in terms of like making the movie version of Lovecraft's Re-Animator, seeing that it wasn't working and steering into what it was, what that feel they were getting, that comedy feel, and that kind of over the topness that you get with this film, and I think it makes the movie for me. And like I 100% understand that not everyone is going to agree with my love of this film because
I'm so glad you love this movie as much as I do.
Oh yeah, it was a great like when Lovecraft came up, I was like, damn, Hunter, you know me because I love me some cosmic horror, man. I love like that's one of my favorite genres.
I'm just trying to show people Re-Animator as much as I can because it is such a great B horror movie.
Yeah, man, absolutely. But let's go ahead and close this out. But we're gonna go ahead and let you know the next film that we will be doing for the third episode of Sinister's Horror Stash.
All right, guys. So on our third episode, which will be airing next week, we will be doing the 1998 classic, in my opinion, Urban Legend. I cannot wait to see what Alec thinks of this movie. It's a running theme and a running joke here on this channel that I am the Urban Legend lover. So, Alec, go ahead and take it over before we head out.
Yeah, man, I'm excited to get into this film. I've heard so many things about it. This will be my first watch for Urban Legend. So yeah, I'm interested to see because I know your love of slashers. I know you're the Scream guy. I enjoy Scream. It's not my favorite. Yeah, it's not my favorite, but I do love the Scream film, so I'm interested to see. And I love like those '90s slasher films. So I'm interested to see how
Urban Legend is great because Urban Legend is great because it's got so many horror icons in this movie, like horror actors and actors you wouldn't even think were in horror movies at this time. And the cast is so insane, which going back to Scream and things like that, they always had really great young cast, and Urban Legend does as well.
All right, well, I'm excited to get into it, excited to watch it, and to discuss it with you on the next episode of Sinister's Horror Stash. But until then, you guys be good, and appreciate you guys watching these videos for us. Find us here on Welcome to Primetime for Sinister's Horror Stash. I'm Alec. That's Hunter. And we'll catch you next time.
Stay scared, guys.